Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another Royal Cyber webinar session. Let's give another 30 seconds or so for any last minute attendees before we get started. And while we wait, as you guys can see, today is going to be a little bit of a different session. Today is going to be less of slides and more just interactions and conversation. And we want to make sure that this is as useful to you as it is for us. So hopefully you can use this time to also ask some questions. All right. Well, everyone, my name is Alfonso Asuaje, business lead for our enterprise commerce services here at Royal Cyber. I'll be your host for today's session. Of course, for anyone that's meeting us for the first time today, Royal Cyber is an IT consulting and digital transformation company. We have been in the supporting organizations like yours, their e-commerce presence and strategy since 2002, and now with over 1,200 employees worldwide, Royal Cyber has successfully completed over 1,500 projects for more than 130 clients through our offices across the US, Canada, India, Pakistan, KSA, and of course, New Zealand as well. One of the reasons we love this e-commerce space is because, again, we serve major enterprise organizations as an IT systems implementer and trusted technology partner for leading platforms across the e-commerce realm, providing end-to-end services and solutions for everything e-commerce, and of course the surrounding ecosystem as well, from cloud to analytics, AI, integrations, portals, robotics, RPA, mobile, all across 12 plus industries and various business models. But today I want to make sure I can introduce some of the people that are with me. Today I have my colleagues Anthony Heon, Global Practice Head of UX, and Gareth Nicholson, who is the Director of Functional Strategy as well as Head of Business Analytics here at Royal Cyber. I'm so glad that you guys are here today with me. And of course, to give you a little background for those joining us today, we had a webinar session, Making Your E-commerce Site Competitive, where we discussed, and that was a couple of weeks back, where we discussed one of our offers, which is a 9-point digital assessment that analyzes and reports on the functionality, capabilities, the technology infrastructure, and the quality of the user experience supporting your site. And well, today, you get to hear directly from Suvon's founder, Matthew Essa, on his experience leveraging this assessment. So right away, Matthew, welcome. We are super excited that you're here with us today. And I figure we can start if maybe you can share a little bit about yourself and Suvon and your journey today.
Definitely. First of all, thank you so much for having me here. It's such a pleasure and honor to be on this joint webinar together. And well, a little bit about me. I'm Matthew. I'm Lebanese, currently residing in Kuwait, and the founder of Suvon Corp and all of its projects that follows. So what is Suvon Corp? We're basically kind of an online innovations platform corporation. I know it's a mouthful to say in a way. So basically, we try to be a portal to multiple innovative projects, all towards one united goal, which is to create a new world that is safer, better, greener, more efficient, and productive through the global bridging of innovation. And who knows, this could lead to a lot of different new realities, new innovations, maybe an entire new world of innovation. So thank you so much for having me here. It's our pleasure to be here with you today.
Thank you so much, Matthew. Thank you. And now that we're all well acquainted, I want to remind all of the listeners today for this session that we hope you feel comfortable asking any pressing questions that you might have on the assessment and how you see your team taking advantage of the service. Today's session will be obviously more than casual than the usual. You're not seeing an agenda, you're not seeing a presentation or slides. We want to make sure that this is a discussion and provide you with any additional insights into our approach and how companies like Suvon are making the most of this assessment and this service. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. So it's safe to say, Matthew, that the technology companies offer like some kind of an all-in-one website assessment these days, specifying on various capabilities across the digital ecosystem. So Matthew, in your opinion, what made this assessment stand out from the pack?
Okay, let's put it this way. First of all, hands down, even if we put the assessment itself aside, it's definitely the team. The team that was behind this assessment and the way we had this entire approach. Let me paint you a picture, all right? So let's talk about a regular sales call any company could get within a year. I get like around 500 a year of the exact copy-paste template, which is you get your sales rep, He's there. They try to ask all of these questions just so they could generate the lead, and then they push it up. And then the next call is about, oh, what's the budget that you have? And that's if they don't go money direct in the first call. Generate the lead, send it up, do this thing, achieve a quota, which is absolutely fine. You know, a business is a business after all. When it came to Royal Cyber reaching out to us, it wasn't even one person. It was I mean, the three awesome people on the webinar right now. We're talking about like heads of departments coming with a very personalized approach, and they had like this entire collaboration, and the strength of the team itself was clearly present. And you'll see this when you're looking into innovation entrepreneurships. A lot of people, a lot of investors, a lot of corporations, when they're taking steps forward, the team is very essential, as well as, of course, the product, the service, and what the company has to offer. So the high commitment that the team was towards me made me even feel I was part of them. I'm talking about like a 2-week assessment with me speaking with the team for over 2 months, going and coming, very flexible. I mean, I know Tony is laughing, but honestly, my heart goes out to him. This awesome poor guy, he's up from like what 3, 4, or 5 a.m. just to meet with Suvon. I mean, like, come on, like it's crazy. It's crazy in a great way. And if I'm talking even the technical parts, the functionality, the quality of user experience, and the technology that the assessment provides, it was created in a way that you could easily see how everything is interconnected. The way the report appears is smooth, and it's good to understand whether you are an extreme guru in your field and you're like all about technology or all about e-commerce, or even just a startup corporation. And I believe that with Royal Cyber's approach, doing it this way, and the whole concept of instead of take it or leave it, it's take it and enjoy it part is great. I mean, it's a free assessment, and they literally tell you in the end, if you don't want us to do anything, it's okay. Here you go, have it, no strings attached. So for, I don't know, for startups, for existing companies, it's worth a shot, and you get to meet, I mean, at least the 3 awesome, amazing people that I got to meet. So yeah, that's what I could say in a nutshell, I guess.
Yeah, no, and oh my gosh, thank you so much for all your words, of course, Matthew. And you mentioned one of the biggest things, obviously, in this assessment process. You touched on the pillars, right? That we consider the pillars of the performance, right, of your website, which is the functionality, the quality of the user experience, the technology infrastructure. So how does that work, right? And I want to ask this to Tony and Gareth, because how does it work in practice? Because obviously, each pillar, the work for it, the analysis, the reporting, and the analysis of it is performed by different people. So can you guys elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, Garrett, do you want me to start?
Yeah, you go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's true that, you know, the assessments are done by subject experts, but, you know, there's just a ton of collaboration between the 3 disciplines, and I think it's because we just, you know, we love working together. So it's great to have that exchange. But, you know, Garrett typically starts, you know, with his functional checklist. Then I can see where he's finding opportunities and where they can sync with my findings. And of course, you know, when we identify those issues that we deem as a high priority, and we'll talk about those when we share an actual report, you know, we validate those with the technical team before committing to putting them in the prototype. You know, we want our recommendations to be meaningful from the perspective of all 3 pillars.
Yeah, I support that. I mean, and then that's why we call them pillars, really, because it's like you've got pillars with a plinth over the top, and we're all mutually supporting that weight, and we can only do that by working together. So, you know, we've done enough of these now that we've got this way of working, that we go off on the functional side. We assess the website. We look at the different functions that are supported, that aren't there, or that perhaps are there but, you know, aren't done to the best, you know, like best practice. But then we check back with Tony, you know, and we say, how would that look, you know? And then we look at the technical side and say, you know, is this implementable? And so we work very closely together so that the outputs that we produce are consistent and cohesive. And I think that's very important. You know, if we were saying one thing from the functional perspective and Tony was presenting something else in the prototype, it would be quite confusing. So I think this ability to sort of meld the ideas together and sort of feed off each other's ideas is a part and parcel of what it is that we aim to produce.
Yeah. And with so many moving pieces, right? Once we start thinking about it like that, what does that mean for the flexibility of the approach, right? Because now we're looking at capabilities, the functionality capabilities, we're looking at the technology and the quality of the user experience.
Yeah.
So can you tell us, like, what if somebody wanted to focus on one or two areas in particular?
Garrett, do you want me to take that for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead.
So, we of course tailor our approach to whatever your individual needs are. That being said, it's a 9-point assessment by design. We look at the site, as we said, through the lens of functionality, technology, and UX, and we feel that this really gives a much more holistic view of where the opportunities are. But again, yes, I mean, if, for instance, you want just a functional and UX assessment, absolutely, we can perform that for you. But if we're able to use the full breadth of our 9-point assessment, we feel that it can give you a much stronger direction, if you will, for where you could take your site so they support everything it is that you want to do.
Yeah, and I think we can give a good example of that, of one that we're working on at the moment, where initially we were asked to do a UX assessment and a functional assessment of an app, a mobile app. And so that's what we did. We went away and we looked at it from those two aspects. But actually then we came back and said to the vendor, well, you could benefit an awful lot from doing a technical, taking the technical dimension into consideration on this as well, and had that conversation. At the end of the day, we'll negotiate and discuss and do what we're asked to do. But in this case, we came back and with a recommendation. Let's look at that third dimension, that third pillar as well. And I think the report that we're producing is all the stronger for that.
Definitely. So and it's definitely a shift, right? Now we can see that Royal Cyber is now getting into this consultancy work style, where these assessments are working as a way for Royal Cyber to really come in and provide insights to not only our customers or our clients, but now our community, right? Any organization that needs an assessment like this can sort of have this now consultancy work. Gareth, can you tell us a little bit more about how Royal Cyber got to this place of doing more consultancy work?
Yeah, I think it was a natural progression. And you mentioned in your opening talk, Alfonso, that we've been in this industry for sort of 20 plus years now, working in e-commerce, doing a lot of implementations. I forget the figure, but hundreds of implementations for many different clients. And so we've built up our expertise in implementation in a lot of different technologies as well. So a lot of companies will specialize in SAP or in Salesforce or whatever. We've got areas of excellence in all of these areas and others. So we consider ourselves to be e-commerce experts. And then if you look at, on the back of that, the people that we've got working for the company, I mean, for instance, the first e-commerce website I worked on doesn't exist anymore, for goodness sake, but we developed that in the year 2000, and I've been working in e-commerce ever since then, really. And Tony's got a similar story, I'm sure. So it was a melding of experience, both from the company's perspective and the people within the team, an opportunity as well, because we wanted to make a difference and add that extra dimension, rather than companies come and say, okay, we've decided this is the technology we want to use, can you implement this for us? We want to be involved in those discussions and help influence the direction which a company will go and provide that extra level of support. So I think getting into consultancy was a natural progression for us, really, and it's working out really well. And I think anybody that works in something like e-commerce wants to give back and wants to put back in.
Hey, Gareth, sorry, I think we can't hear you. Can you repeat that last part? Okay, I think Gareth might be having a quick issue with his audio. But that said, in the meantime, while we get that going, now that we've talked a little bit about our experience, right? We have, like Gareth mentioned, we've been in the space since 2002, working across all major players in the game. I would love to get more of your experience, Matthew. Can you tell us what was your intake as far as how was the team's experience evident to you throughout the assessment and through our engagement so far?
Well, let me start with this. So the fact that Royal Cyber is, if I'm understanding correctly, recently is entering into the consultancy branch, you had me fooled. Let's put it this way, because I mean, knock on wood, kudos to Gareth and Tony. I mean, like since the year 2000, that's a wealth of experience. And to be honest, it shows. It shows. Like I was saying earlier, when you get into calls and you go in further, you start to get like when people start to throw around those words like SEO and UI, UX, and all of that stuff. There's a difference when you're speaking with someone who is saying those things as just a quick check mark before they send you up to a lead, and when a person is actually specialized and they know what they're talking about. And it was very, very clear and apparent when I had these discussions with Gareth and Tony, and even with you at times, Alfonso. I remember that, and it shows. So it shows from the team, and not only that, as their respective global heads, director, and all of that, there's an international global team as well. So it puts me in a situation where, because of the experience and the networking that Royal Cyber has, if there's any project I'm thinking of in terms of like a software project, for example, it's not like go and build me a machine, but building a software or something of that sort, it feels, or at least to my perception, I could believe that Royal Cyber has the expertise and skills and years of experience to put it together and make it happen. And if not, I'm pretty sure they could pick up the phone to one of their many partners and make it happen. So giving this kind of openness towards projects and things to take on really surprised me. I didn't expect you guys to be recently entering a consultancy, if that's what I understood correctly, because it felt to me you've been in it at least for a couple of decades. So
yeah, well, lots of work, lots of different projects that we discussed, and again, that sort of mentality across not just the e-commerce implementation, but really the surrounding ecosystem, right? We have to understand how everything is working together. That's why, again, this assessment kind of looks at those three things, not just the e-commerce implementation itself, right, and what capabilities you need, but let's talk about how your user is engaging with you and what sort of experience you're trying to make sure that they get out of it. So that said, Matthew, having completed the assessment, what sort of deliverables were handed to you, or did you get at the end?
Okay, so definitely, of course, I got the assessment report, which is the whole cloud of our conversation today. But let me tell you just a little bit about the report and how it came to me in terms of deliverable. And I'm going to associate this a little bit with medical terminologies. Let's put it this way. You could blame all of the K-dramas I've been hearing for this entire month for this. So imagine you are in an operation theater. All right, your company is the person in front of you, the patient that you're working on. You're the lead surgeon, and the deliverables and the assessment that's coming from Royal Cyber is your first assistant. And there's a reason why I'm going with first assistant with this one. When you're operating, you've got all of the organs, you've got the arteries, you've got everything so delicate, so precise. And let's call the arteries like the backbones of like everything in your body. And that would be your administration and management. You know, the hidden, the back end of everything that the client or customers won't usually see on the website, but it's extremely essential for the entire company to work. And the reason why I'm saying that the deliverables were like the first assistant is because not only did the assessment itself come out as a form of a checklist where I could see that, okay, these are all of the problems that had issues, these are recommendations, this is what I could do, this is what is recommended, what is not recommended. But as a first assistant does in surgery, if there's a wound that's open, they suture it. If there's a certain path, they would tell you, maybe we shouldn't do ECMO, maybe we should have to go to bypass. the deliverables did something similar to that. So I got to see the assessment, I got to see templates, I got to see the recommendations in its live form, and everything was based either on an industry benchmark and or the experiences of the team. And honestly, put in everything together in a nutshell, it feels that it kind of gives you a holistic approach and shows you things that could be very, very, very simple, but you just didn't notice them. Something like a color of a button, for example, or the placement of something that you have so many other big important things, you miss those small details. They're able to catch. And you may think they're small details, but they could actually have the biggest impact. That's what I would say I kind of got from everything in this journey that we had. That and how committed the team is to be up at 4 a.m. to speak with me.
Yeah, no, well, Tony and Gareth, I would love to hear from you. As far, can you elaborate as to what goes, what is part of that creation of the report and the, you know, every part of the assessment and how you kind of display it back to the to customers, like in this case, Suvon and Matthew.
Yeah, you know, as I'm sorry, Gareth, did you want to start?
Well, yeah, I could start, because I guess it starts with the functional side often, doesn't it? So what we do is we have a checklist of functions that we go through, and we look through the systems systematically, basically, and look to see whether those functions are covered by the website. If they are they done well? How do they compare with, you know, with the benchmark of best practice? And so we come up with a list of findings, basically, and then we then assess those and look at what our recommendations are based on those, and then we take them into 3 categories. So it's basically, you know, these are high priority things. These are either things that you really should do straight away because they're so important, or because they're low hanging fruit as well. They're just easy to pick off, you know, so why wouldn't you? And then we look at things that are fast followers. So again, things that you can do, you can resolve quite easily, quite quickly. They're perhaps not quite as pressing, but in the overall sort of strategy of the site, they're still very important. And then we look at things that are roadmap, and these are things that you should still consider. They're a bit more blue sky, or there might be things that, you know, you need. And if you use the analogy of the iceberg, I mean, the actual e-commerce website that you see is only the tip of the iceberg, as we all know. You know, it's supported by, you know, order management systems, content management systems, delivery management systems. You know, there's so many other systems in the ecosystem that support it, and you might need to change those systems in order to provide the data that you need to drive the website. So that's the sort of thing that we put into the roadmap, and then we pass it. You know, we have these conversations with Tony and sort of pass it across for his aspect of it as well.
Yeah, I just run with that for a second, and that's where, you know, we get a little sizzle in our presentation, is that, you know, we take, you know, those opportunities that between the 3 of us we say are very effective to take forward. Oh, hold on a second, I want to share my screen here. Can you see that?
Yeah, we can see the screen.
Okay.
Yep,
so and this is the actual report that we shared with Matthew and his team. But what I was going to say is that where we can add a little sizzle is that, you know, we take those issues that are important, those high priority issues, and we put them in the interactive prototype, but we use your guidelines, your style guide, so we can show you, you know, what these recommendations would look like in the real world. So let's just take a quick peek at the report, and you can see that it's quite extensive. These are some of Garrett's findings during his functional checklist, and it's obviously rated as high priority, fast followers. And again, you know, I know I'm flying through this and I apologize, but I mean, if you'd like to get more detail on what's in these reports, just reach out and, you know, we could set up a time and we could walk you through it. These are starting the findings from the technical assessment. And then these are the findings that I did during my evaluation. And I broke them down into what the UX principle is, the area of concern, and then the recommendations. So you could see that there are quite a few. And then, as I said, where we can get into a little bit more sizzle is taking some of those and actually putting it into the interactive prototype. I'm hoping that you can still see my screen. So, the prototype was a little bit different than most that we do, because in our conversations with Matthew, we came to the conclusion that branding was going to have to be a big part of our recommendations. And this was because, of some of the things that Matthew told us he wanted his brand associated with. Obviously, in the shopping experience, which we did our evaluation on, the whole idea of innovation has to be there. So it has to feel like a brand that is associated with innovation. Style, obviously, because we're dealing with apparel. Taste. These are some of the things that we needed to have in our prototype to suggest that it belonged in this particular segment. So as we said in the report, we looked at a lot of things. We looked at page layout of the primary pages, obviously, the home page and the hub pages, product list pages, and product detail pages. And we also looked at cart and checkout and search. So let's just take a quick peek at what we came up with. And again, we talked about the importance of branding, as well as functionality, user experience, and the technical opportunities that we came up with. Now, obviously, we made some changes in layout, and I'll talk about that in a second. But the primary assets, meaning imagery, so important, obviously, in an e-commerce environment, but even more important in apparel. So we're suggesting a different tact, if you will, for lifestyle photography as well as product photography. Photography is probably your most important asset, not just from a branding perspective, but to really help conversion. You need to romance those products in a way that really motivates customers to buy them. Even in the secondary promotions, we're suggesting taking that style and product photography and continuing it through. And then also one of the areas that we looked at was the brand voice. Now, the brand voice really manifests itself primarily in the promotions. And what we try to suggest is a balance, if you will, between content and imagery. You don't want to feel like the site is yelling at you. So, in this case, obviously affiliates are hugely important to Matthew's business model, but we're doing it in a way that romances joining Matthew's organization, and it doesn't feel like you're yelling at him. So we've also looked at, as we said, the information architecture and navigation. And one of the things that was a little unique about Matthew's current experiences is that, the primary categories may not be something that, customers may be familiar with if they're going to a shopping experience. So we're suggesting something a little bit easier. We're suggesting a very familiar two-tier navigational structure that, again, easy to understand the breadth of the product offering and allows customers to drill down very quickly. In this case, if they wanted to go to t-shirts, they could easily get there. But, one of the things about, I just wanted to touch a little bit on the product offering, especially on the homepage. And there's a reason why we brought this carousel so high up on the page. There's kind of a rule of thumb where you want to try to present at least 40% of your product catalog on the homepage. And for very good reason. New users, especially when they come to the homepage, make snap decisions about your brand, about your product selection, about many, many different things. But you don't want them to leave if they feel that you don't offer products that they are looking for. So having that breadth of products, especially on the homepage, is hugely important. So just a word on the layout, the approach to the layout that we did. I think personally that beautiful UI is an exercise in restraint. You don't want to put too much in there, but you want to create a presentation style that allows the hero, in this case, the products, to be the hero. So, you know, if you, and obviously that even puts more importance on the assets, the lifestyle imagery and the product imagery, but let's just drill down to a product list page, and in this case, t-shirts. And again, very familiar layout. You know, one of the things that you want to try to do, again, it's that exercise and restraint, but you want the products to be the hero, whether it's the home page or whether it's the product list page, more importantly on the product detail page, which we'll see in a second. But again, product imagery here is hugely important to motivate customers to learn more. We're suggesting a hover state, nothing novel, but in the current experience, it doesn't have it. But this is, again, undervalued from the standpoint of giving customers more information about the product that would motivate them to go to the product detail page. Now, for the more advanced users, and again, this is not novel, but it was missing in the current experience, just offering a quick shop feature for those advanced users. Obviously, something like this, you know, works amazing in a B2B experience, but I don't think you should undervalue it in a B2C experience, just because they're going to be your advanced customers that I think would welcome the ability to put a product that they're familiar with in their cart quickly and not have to go to the product detail page to do that. So let's just go down to the product detail page. And again, this whole exercise in trying to show enough, but not over design the page so the design actually competes with the product, because in this case, the product detail page, it's hugely important to show all of the information that a customer would need. In this case, very simple layout. They can scroll through all the alt images, they can share them all. They could, obviously there's opportunity for upsell. And again, you know, product detail page is one area that we recommend. Upsell, you know, is another story we would love to get into, but I apologize, we just don't have the time to do that now. But on the product detail page, hugely important to exercise that restraint in the design and let the product be the hero. And in your price story and your attributes, have a flow to that goes to add to cart very easily. Now, I'll just talk a little bit about the rest of it. Being the cart, shopping cart, and also the checkout. Very simple restraint. This is where you want absolutely zero friction, but give control to the customers. So in this case, being able to, you know, edit or remove or add very easily, being able to show the summary of the price story, you know, the options for purchase. Again, cart is one area that you can do upsell and not feel like it's heavy-handed, if you will. And then when you get to checkout, this will look familiar, and there's good reason. There are certain checkout layouts that just work. Single page checkout with the ability to not, the only real change here is we're suggesting that, you know, as you finish each of these sections and move on to the next section, they don't collapse. So if you want to go back and edit, it's just as easy as scrolling up the page to change your information. Again, order summary, hugely important. You want to make sure that the customers understand what they're buying. It seems straightforward, but you know, it's often missed. And you know, I forgot one thing, and I'll do it on the homepage, but you know, this is the level that we obsess about things like, you know, branding. For those of you that have been paying attention, and you know, we even actually suggested, because currently it's called the exclusive store, we're suggesting that it be shortened to the exclusive. And you know, I started my career in identity, and I just fall in love with stuff like this. But you know, saying just enough, especially in a name, to start pulling in the imagination of the customer to finish and not give them everything is something that you try to do, because it suddenly becomes memorable. So that's not everything that we did in the prototype. And again, if you'd like to see the full breadth of you know, what we can bring to these assessments, just reach out and And Garrett, myself, and Alfonso will be happy to take you through the entire laundry list of things that we do in the assessment. So let me change the, there you go.
Awesome, thank you, Tony, because obviously it's hard to paint a picture, right? When you're talking about so many different areas, when you're talking about so many different aspects of this assessment. Of course, the assessment typically takes about 2 weeks. That sounds like a lot of effort, of course, and I understand that we provide it for free. Obviously, we're doing this complimentary assessment. Free of charge. Gareth, can you tell us here what's the angle? What's
the angle?
It's fully complimentary. What is Royal Cyber getting out of it?
Yeah, well, I think the fact that we've got Matthew joining us today, you know, we've worked really well with him. I think that's the angle, if you like, is that we've got enough sort of pride and enough confidence in our product that we're prepared to say, look, you know, here we are. Here's the output of our work. Take it and do what you will with it. If you want to bury it, that's fine. If you want to take it to another company to implement it for you, that's fine equally. But we'd like to think that we'll have presented it in such a way that you'll realize our value and our value add, and you'll want to work with us further. But yeah, absolutely no strings attached to that.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things, right, is, and I love this, right? I can either tell you that I speak Spanish, or I can just start talking Spanish with you guys, right? I think that's kind of like, it's almost like the proof is in the pudding. I love when we get to do this assessment with clients like Suvon and all the many others that we're working with, because it's so cool when you say, when they get back to you and they're like, wow, that was a lot. And it's so cool because then now they understand the capabilities, right? We're not saying, dude, you need us right now. We're saying, when it comes to it, this is how we can help. And I think that's the biggest thing we want. We want to continue to build a community. Obviously, we're a family-owned company, so being able to invest and create great connections with people, providing assessments like this only continues to prove the way of organic growth, I guess, within our organization, by providing insights that continue to help our community, right? Other B2B, B2C companies that are out there that are looking to continuously bring innovation to their digital channels. For this next question, I would like to get both of your thoughts here, Tony and Gareth.
Alfonso, sorry to interrupt. Can I just make one more point? And because I think we've been talking as if all the assessments we do are for new clients, and that obviously is a big focus of ours. But to your point about, you know, growing lasting relationships, we also do this for existing clients as well. And I think that's an important point to make, that it's a service that, you know, our existing clients find very helpful as well, because it's far more rewarding for us as well to be able to come in and impact what's done on a website, not just to come in and make the changes and excel in that area, but to be able to say, yeah, not only did we, you know, and you can show your family, you know, we worked on this, we actually developed this, and that was my idea, or that was the guy who works for me's idea, or it was Tony's idea, or something like that. You know, it's a very rewarding exercise for us as well.
Yeah. Oh no, I completely, that's actually one of the things that I wanted to kind of touch on is, of course, there's all this time, all these different capabilities, everything that we're doing. When it comes to like companies, right? Are they put off by the amount of their time that goes into this, that this consumes? Can you tell me more about that, Gareth?
Yeah, sure. And I think it's a spectrum. It really is. You know, we've literally been asked to do an assessment. You know, you're the guys, you know what you're doing, you take it away, you do it, come back and show me what you've got. You know, so we have minimal input from the client as we go along, and so it takes very little of their time. Obviously, that's not our preferred approach, because we want to be very collaborative. And so you know, the other end of the spectrum is somebody like Matthew, who gets as excited about it as we do. And we work very collaboratively, have lots of meetings, and spend a lot of time on it. And I think, you know, the end result is probably better if you have that more collaborative approach. But that's not to say that you know, we're all sort of realistic. The people we're working with are busy people that don't have a huge amount of time, and so we can sort of cut the cloth accordingly, basically.
Yeah, and you talking about both sides of the spectrum, Matthew, how about you? For you, how did you find the assessment? Is strain on your time in any way? How was it for you as far as that time management side?
Not at all. Absolutely not at all. Even though, yes, okay, fair enough. The amount of time that I did spend with Royal Cyber is considered, you know, more than usual than I would with other separate projects. But honestly, like the balance between just the time with the assessment and the bond building is so great, and I looked forward to actually coming to these meetings. And like from the moment I met Royal Cyber, I know that I said like I get like around like 500 a year people try to come and book these. I could easily count on my hand like the amount of companies this year that I enjoyed really spending time with them. And definitely the time I spent was amazing. Yes, like he said, it's 2 weeks to do, but because we had like what 2 or 3 times a week meetings for close to like 2 months. Honestly, I think I should be asking you that question, because if anything, I probably put on you guys, not the other way around. But honestly, like from my side, I absolutely loved spending time with you, and I would do it over and over and over again, even if you may regret spending so much time with me.
Yeah, likewise, Matthew.
Yeah, I think being able to say that that sort of level of communication is present. I think it just goes to show how the goal is to make a lasting connection, right? Not to create a customer for life, not to, you know, bring a partner that's going to be with us for many projects. Is to make sure that when the right, you know, issue comes in, or the right goal, that people understand how we can support them, whether it's through insights and analytics, or through planning and strategizing as to the approach, or actually the execution of it, right? Whether it's maintenance and development, or implementations and integrations, or if it's more so testing. Every area of it, right, is something that we're constantly looking, not just growing our own experience by constantly supporting different customers across, you know, all the different industries that we support. I think at the beginning I mentioned 12 plus industries across B2B, B2C, D2, you know, everything, even business to government in some occasions, right? There's a little bit of everything, and bringing that that experience and understanding is only gonna continue to allow us to support companies like you guys out there listening, and as to how to better, you know, provide you with better insights that are gonna make you, you know, reach your goals faster and better than the competition. Of course, for anybody listening, there are many ways for you guys. If you still have doubts as to how this can potentially help you, we have tons of supporting content. Obviously, I referenced that a few weeks back we did a webinar where we touched on, it was called the Making Your E-commerce Site Competitive, and it was where we touched on this assessment and the various the nature, the organic nature as to why we focus on those 3 pillars, and the capabilities behind it, right, and what goes into each of the aspects, right? So we want to make sure that that's something that you guys can leverage. But if there is if you need additional information, obviously go ahead. We have white papers and blogs and webcasts that are there to facilitate that information for you. Gareth and Tony, when it comes to our customers reaching out to us, can you tell us a little bit more about what that process looks like as to how we respond to those inquiries?
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. I mean, you mentioned some of the opportunities. You know, obviously, you know, linked to this webinar, there's many ways to contact us. I mean, you know our names now, you know how to find us, you know where we live. So going to the site and scheduling an appointment, or reaching out to us directly, any way that's most comfortable for you. You know, we'd love to have a conversation with you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a perfect transition, because if you have any questions, or if you heard something in this session, whether it's you want to ask Tony, Gareth, or Matthew, myself, we're going to open up the floor right now for any questions. So go ahead and start using or start sharing your questions through the open chat feature, and we'll do our best to answer as many questions as we can in the next few minutes. Of course, any questions we can get to in time, we'll reach out to you directly with the right insight. So I'll give you guys a couple of seconds here in case we start getting some questions. Okay, awesome. We already got a couple. Okay, so the question goes, how long would we have to wait to schedule a digital assessment?
Garrett, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, I mean, as we say, it takes a couple of weeks, but we're quite flexible as well. I mean, and we're involved personally in the assessments that we do, but we do have other people as well. I mean, like within my team, I've got other people that I use as well, so it's a fresh pair of eyes. So I mean, we could get you what we're end of July. We could get somebody in by the later part of August, I would think.
Yeah, and I think like Garrett just mentioned, we have teams that are working across all the different aspects of the assessment, depending on how tailored you're looking to get it to make this assessment for you, right? If you want to focus on each of the pillars or so, the sooner we understand a little bit more of your requirements, the easier it will be for us to kind of start scheduling some of those assessments. Right away, I'm going to go ahead and move to the next question. We don't currently have an e-commerce site, but we're planning on one. Would the assessment service still be relevant? Tony, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I think absolutely, because at any stage, I mean, of course, you know, doing something like a heuristic evaluation works really well if you have an existing experience to evaluate. That being said, if you're just starting to think about putting together and building an e-commerce experience, you know, having an assessment could start to give you direction and an idea of the kinds of things that you should consider. So I would say 100%. It is extremely relevant if you're in just the beginning stages of building your e-commerce experience. I mean, Garrett, would you agree with that?
Yeah, and we've actually got clients where we've taken them from having a static site to having like a fully interactive. In this case, the one I'm thinking of is B2B, but I mean, you know, it could be either way, B2B, B2C. But you know, we worked with them, and actually, from again coming back to the point I was making about being involved in the decision, not the decision, but influencing the decisions that are made, getting in on the ground floor from us, I think is a very viable option, and I think we could add a lot in that circumstance.
Yeah. I guess the next question that we have is, can I keep the rapport if I choose to go with a different agency?
100%. You know,
of course.
You know, it's like, you know, when Garrett was talking about, you know, is there an angle here? It's hard to, you know, think about something like this and not, the first thought in your mind is, well, what's the angle?
Right.
The angle is just to do great work and to partner with great people like Matthew. But if you choose to, for whatever reason, you know, go with a different agency after we do the assessment, the report's yours. There, as you know, Garrett said, there's no strings attached. And you know, we'd be very happy for you wherever you end up.
Yeah, it's funny because I have Matthew's medical analogy in my head, and I'm thinking, if you were a second doctor giving a second opinion, would you keep, you know, the diagnosis before, you know, if the person was going to move somewhere else? No, you want to constantly support, you know, stick to your oath, essentially, to your medical oath. So in this case, I guess we have one too, right? Our digital oath of just constantly supporting agencies, companies through our agency work or our development work, our consultancy work, everything, right? I guess this next question is actually for Matthew. Did you decide to work with Royal Cyber after the assessment?
Okay, sweet question. So yeah, well, I got the assessment, all of that. I did speak with Royal Cyber, and I can't reveal a lot of things, but let's just say, how about this? Even in the call right now, let's just say there's a lot of Suvon related, very happy members that are in there. So hopefully that kind of alludes to something.
That's awesome. Yeah. So yeah, I think the goal for the assessments like this, again, it's not just to trigger work like we've discussed many times throughout the conversation today. It's to create connections, right? And to create at the beginning of really good conversations and connections between our organization and yours. So whether you're just, again, like we talked about, whether you're planning or strategizing or just looking for additional, a second doctor's opinion, in this case, going back to that analogy, we want to make sure that we can have those conversations. I think that those conversations is what allow us to understand what you're in need, and it keeps us from making sure that you receive, if we're going to reach out to you, you have the right content, coming from us, and not just another email in your inbox. So it kind of allows us also to better connect with you. Let's see.
If you don't mind me jumping back in real quick, just because I want to make sure I give a fair answer. Let's say that I'm looking forward to the start of a relationship and partnership, hopefully, with Royal Cyber in the real future. So there are things in the works. We can't reveal it just yet, because we want a little bit of element of surprise. It may not exactly be what you're thinking, but yeah. So that's as far as I could say, because I don't want, lawyers breaking down through my windows from the ceiling, coming up from the underground. So yeah, that's as far as I could say. So hopefully that does answer.
It's safe to say you know how to build suspense. So yeah, we look forward to what's to happen in the future. There's two last questions that hopefully we have time to go over them really quickly, Gareth and Tony. One of them is, as part of the assessment, do you include costs to implement?
We don't, but we can give an idea of the level of effort. Now, again, you have to think about this assessment. It's a 2-week assessment, and you can tell by what we shared today. There's a lot of work that goes into this, but it shouldn't, by no stretch of the imagination, be considered a complete assessment that would lead to a accurate proposal. So we do need to go through a more detailed and rigorous evaluation to provide more accurate cost, especially if it includes, let's say, promotional marketing. That's not a consideration, but it's certainly something that is part and parcel with either a redesign or launching a new experience. And we would need time to obviously do the due diligence to give accurate numbers when it comes to something like a performance marketing campaign.
Awesome.
I think the other thing as well is it, I mean, we would do this, we would give more information if asked for, but it does sort of go a little bit against the spirit of no strings attached. It's like saying, we're going to do this for you, it's yours to take away. Oh, and by the way, if you asked us to do it, it will cost you this much. So so I think the whole approach is, as Tony rightly said, we can give a certain sort of pointer if we're asked to do that, but that isn't the norm.
Yeah, and I think the other part of, as far as the assessment itself, right? Like you mentioned, that there's a lot of moving pieces, and you already have your roadmap, right? Companies already have the roadmap. They have the vision. They have the budget that they're going to allocate for each specific quarter. So the best we can do is make sure that you have the insights to understand, points of friction that you might not have foreseen, or maybe that you did, but now you have recommendations as to how to move forward with them, and how to, best that you have, best practices to follow, right? And that comes from our experience with all the different partnerships across e-commerce and all the surrounding areas, right? So you at least are getting that sort of credibility right away that you can start continuing to make your decisions around. This last question is great. It says, would Alfonso, Gareth, and Tony, and Abdul, who's actually the practice head for the technical side of this assessment, would they be part of the core team should we decide to move forward with your recommendations?
Garrett, you want to take that?
Well, I mean, we certainly with the assessments, we have been part of every assessment that's taken place.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to move forward beyond that, we would be involved in the discussions. But we're, I think, as you said, Alfonso, we are sort of practice heads, and so we wouldn't necessarily be involved in the project implementation. We wouldn't be involved in doing it, but we'd certainly be involved in discussions about it. That's for sure.
Yeah. That being said, you know, I'm the type of practice lead that has never lost his love for the craft. So I'll always look for opportunities to get my hands dirty, if you will. So you might have to push me away.
Yeah, and the way I like to see it, maybe you don't want me to be running your, you know, your Google Analytics assessment, part of the assessment, or because obviously we want to make sure that we put the right. One of the greatest parts about our company here at Royal Cyber is we have an amazing recruitment team. If they're listening, shout out to you guys, because our resources really do kind of fit in all of they cross all the what's the phrase? They cross all the X's and dots, all the I's. Super foreign there, so I don't know if I messed that up. But essentially,
in there somewhere, I think.
So we have this great teams right across all the different technologies with crazy amount of experience. We want to make sure that those are the people there, right? And we will be able to kind of allocate depending on what we see in the assessment, what sort of specific understanding is needed, what specific recommendations we're making, and how to pull the right resources with that experience to make sure that you have them available as well. At this time, let's close the questions for today. Thank you so much for sharing all those. Of course, today's special offer is towards this 9-point assessment. I'll give you a quick, very quick high-level overview. We overview the functionality of your site through a functionality checklist, a capability competence, as well as providing our best in-breed recommendations, following best practices across all the industry-leading practices, of course. On the technology side, we review your performance, everything that's tied to your performance, loading, caches, everything, as well as search and the architecture, right? How is your environment set up? What systems are communicating with each other and which ones are not currently, right? And of course, the quality of the user experience through a UX review, the heuristic evaluation, and the competitor analysis, right? As we're trying to make it as robust as possible, so you have the right insights as you continue to make decisions in your journey. So please go ahead and take advantage. If for any reason there is any doubts, we'll continue to share content, and I'll follow up with that. But at this point, I want to conclude. We want to take this time to just give a quick thanks to Gareth and Tony, and of course, a special thanks to you, Matthew, for your time and your participation, and a special thanks to all of you guys for attending today's webinar. I know we did cover a lot of information. So we'll be sharing this recording so that you can have it available to you. Make sure that you can call us out if there is anything that, as you go through the assessment with us, if there is anything you would miss or you want it to be more tailored, we can always discuss that as well. And yeah, we'll be following up with addition to the recording with some supporting content just to make sure you have all the insights needed to make the best decision for you and your team. And on behalf of our team and our Royal Cyber family, thank you, everyone. We look forward to seeing you on our next webinar, and we hope you have an amazing day.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thanks, Matthew.